Welcome to Politics by Faith. Thanks for being here. We just wrapped up our special called Californication, a warning to America. And in the opening segment, we played our monologue and then talking to Mike Cernovich. And in this segment, I want to play our chat with Jedd McFatter, who's author of this book about corruption in California. There's plenty of it. And then we wrap up with our Politics by Faith segment of it, which is about Ezekiel, bringing a little Jonah. And the point of that is why we should care. Because God cares about us and God cares about these peoples and places as well. Enjoy. Welcome back to our special Californication, a warning to America. I want to go to Jedd McFatter, co-author of the book Fool's Gold, the radicals, con artists, and traitors who killed the California dream and now threaten us all. Jedd, how you doing, man?
Thanks for having me. Doing great.
Great for you here. The theme of the show is, well, I'll tell you what. Background is, so I have a national show on SiriusXM Patriot, and very few of our listeners are from California, at least live, because we're on at 6 a.m. Eastern. So it's pretty early in the morning. So we'll talk about California, and I'll care. And then people call in, they're like, whatever, Slater. I'm in Nebraska. Who cares about stupid California? They get what they voted for, and they should get it good and hard. And I have to kind of make the argument, no, it matters. Why do you think California matters? Why do you care?
Well, I think one of the main reasons I care about California is as a state, it's really one of the most spectacular places on the planet in terms of the landscape, the natural resources, all the talent you have, and technology, and everything that's there. The people of California, I think it's one of the most important places on the planet, obviously of our country too. So I think it's worth saving. And as the book goes into, I think that the progressive vision that they've been trying to implement has caused a lot of the problems that's led to this decline.
What's the root of this progressive vision? How did it take hold in a state that has a great conservative tradition?
Mm-hmm. I think that slowly, as it became a one-party state, and you have kind of the elite class that kind of merged in a way with politicians, I think that's where you got that. And then the combination of a one-party state now and kind of a Byzantine bureaucracy, it makes it very difficult, to kind of switch gears and kind of change the movement that's going right now.
And is there any even real push to do that? I mean, with the people who are in power right now, is there any suggestion that we should change things at all from California?
What do you mean exactly? You mean
is there Newsom's not trying to change anything. The unions aren't being hey, we're in big trouble here. Like none of these power brokers who are in power want anything changed anyway.
Right. Well, it's because a lot of them are making money, off what's happening. And I'll give you an example of one thing that we talk about in the book is how Gavin Newsom's cozy ties with China, but really it's not just Gavin Newsom, it's other politicians. But as an example of just how the citizens of California are kind of pushed aside in favor of other things is when Gavin Newsom was mayor of San Francisco, he created a nonprofit called China SF that operated out of the mayor's office. But it wasn't just like a normal nonprofit. It had 4 satellite offices in 4 different cities in China, right? The goal of this nonprofit was to bring in Chinese investment in business. But what it actually also brought in were Chinese criminals and people tied to the CCP. And I can give you an example of one company. Z&L Properties was a company. It's a branch of a large Chinese real estate conglomerate. They were recruited by China SF to come set up shop in San Francisco, in the Bay Area. But soon thereafter, a lot of their big projects ended up with lawsuits. There was fraud involved, and eventually it turned out that this company had ties to some let's just say some dangerous people in California. And the CEO ended up getting charged for bribing, an appointee of Gavin Newsom, actually, and he had to pay $1 million fine. But the thing is, that company, Z&L Properties, they gave an anonymous donation to Gavin's campaign. That's just kind of one example of the loop. But China SF brought in multiple companies where, the people and entities involved have been charged with major criminal crimes. And the thing is, that's at the expense of local citizens, because China SF, Gavin Newsom said it in his own words when he brought them in. He said, we're going to take your permits and we're going to hand walk them through the bureaucracy, right? Now think about that kind of advantage. Anybody knows who tries to do a real estate development project or anything in California, so many hoops to jump through. Permit expediters you have to pay. Gavin Newsom gave them a streamlined path that he didn't give his own citizens. That's the kind of thing that really irked me as I did this research.
Yes, I would say. How about the Pelosi's? Another California dynasty. Same area, right?
Yeah, it's the
Same
Pelosi's.
area.
They're part of that
area. What have you learned about them?
Yeah, I mean, they're part of that. They're part of that elite group too. And a lot of people don't know. This is kind of a little story because a lot of us know some things about Nancy Pelosi. But again, going back to Gavin Newsom, if you look, his campaign treasurer, I guess, when he ran for mayor the first time was Lawrence Pelosi, right? That would be a son of Nancy. But what happened is when he was his campaign treasurer, a lot of people realized they got charged for ethical violations for putting out campaign flyers where they hid, that this was a campaign flyer, the two of them. But as soon as Gavin won became mayor, he immediately, Lawrence Pelosi got appointed to this big real estate development that then got all kinds of government deals. That's just the kind of one little hidden part of it. But the Pelosi story, that's something that goes way back, throughout California history. I mean, we talk about Pelosi in the book, but that's not one of our main focuses.
Yeah, and let me just throw one more Bay Area person in there while we're there. Kamala, how is she tied into all this? Is she super corrupt or just more inept?
I think it's maybe a combination of both. Maybe more of the form. Maybe she's a little more inept. But one of the things that we focus on in the book is Kamala Harris has been one of the least transparent politicians in the history of the U.S. in a way. If you go back, I mean, as vice president, she never disclosed payroll information for the people that work for her. She was the only entity at federal, state, or local who didn't do that. But when she was in San Francisco as district attorney, and as attorney general of California, she withheld records and suppressed information related to pedophile priest abuse. She's also hid information that showed, indiscretions by prosecutors while she's been, district attorney. Throughout her whole history, she has a history of hiding information from the people. And that's what we focus on in this. That's why I'm glad that she didn't make it in as president, because it would have been a lockdown on public records and things like that, I think.
Is there anything kind of unique and interesting? Is there an interesting twist on California government corruption, or is the notable part just the amount and depth of it?
I think the thing that's notable or a little bit different than you see in other places is that in California, because it's such a large bureaucracy and it's such a and it's so Byzantine and complex and difficult that it makes it somewhat easy. I mean, it makes it easier for organized crime, different criminal groups to kind of defraud the government, defraud Medicaid services, any type of large government service, figuring out ways to kind of extract that money. And there's a chapter in the book called Bleeding the Beast. And that's what it talks about. There was a term that was coined by certain organized crime groups that was basically like the government is just there for you to bleed, to defraud them in any way you can to extract money. And that's one of the unique things about California is how much of that goes on. And also the combination of how organized crime groups, Chinese triads, Russian Armenian mobs, Mexican cartels, you saw that how they talked about the cartel could have even possibly been involved in some of the funding for these recent LA riots. So organized crime kind of infiltrating a large bloated bureaucracy and just extracting money from various services. That's a thing that's unique about California. And if it doesn't change, you're just going to see more things. Homelessness industry is a good example of that. It's just basically a massive bloated industry where, various types of shady people can figure out how to get a piece of that.
Yeah, Bleeding the Beast. I mean, maybe the pinnacle example. How many prisoners extracted how much money during COVID and COVID relief?
Oh yeah, that was amazing. That was also when I was doing research for this book, they determined that about 25% of all the applicants or people who were receiving student loans at California community colleges were bots. They were fake, fraudulent bots. And now I just heard a couple weeks ago that now that number, they're saying maybe around 33%. And the thing is, these aren't just random people doing these. These are criminal groups and hackers who are sitting back and just picking them off in a way. It's like shooting fish in a barrel, the California bureaucracy for people who have figured out a way to infiltrate it.
Yeah, there were people on death row who got COVID unemployment money. But from their perspective, it's like, well, yeah, why would I not? Of course, it's there for the taking.
Right. Can I give you one example?
Go ahead, please.
Sorry, can I give you one more example of just something that to me kind of represents what you see a lot in California? There was an example where there was an FBI agent in California who was accepting bribes from the Russian Armenian mob, and then he funneled those bribes through his wife's lice removal salon. Okay, it was called Love Bugs LLC. Then they used the Love Bugs LLC business card to make luxury purchases, and that's just one example, but it's that times thousands in California. And until those things go away, this amazing state's going to continue to be beset by all these types of problems.
Go read the book, Jedd McFatter, Fool's Gold, the radicals, con artists, and traitors who killed the California dream and now threaten us all. We have to stop it there before it gets the rest of the country. Jedd, great to talk to you. Thanks for all your hard work.
Thanks for having me so much. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you. This is our Politics by Faith segment. That's the name of my podcast, where we take the news of the day and we filter it through a biblical perspective. What does the Bible say about this? How should we look at it? And what can we do next? That's the point of my podcast. You can listen to it anywhere you listen to podcasts. I want to talk about caring. Why is it important to care about California, care about our cities from a biblical perspective? Because that's like the point of this segment. I'm talking to people all across the country, and they're like, I don't care about California. I don't care about New York. I don't care about Chicago. The people there want it. Give it, let them have it. Who cares? And I just think, well, like, why care about anything? The other day on my radio show, I was talking about people with AI boyfriends and artificial intelligence girlfriends, and how this will lead to the downfall of all society. And some Slater hater called in and said, Slater, what do you care? And it's like, what do you mean? Like, because this is happening in the country I live in? Like, I'm a citizen here. This is my home. We all have to share this place. And I'm talking about a particular vice that will lead to the downfall of the society that I'm a part of. I would like that to not happen. That's why I care. Is that so hard for you to believe? And often we don't care until something's too late. We don't care until we're deep into this war. We don't care until illegals have taken over the entire country. How much harder is it to take care of the situation then? It's better to care early on. It's better to care at all. Now, we had someone called in afterwards and I gave a rebuke to that guy. His name was Sean. This guy called in and said, okay, Sean, why do you care if illegal aliens are deported? It's not your family. Oh, you care about that? Why? So let's focus on caring for a minute. I wrote a book many years ago called How to Change Someone's Mind. It's more of a pamphlet. It's $5, it's just a couple pages. I think I make $1.12 or something every time you buy one, but it's on Amazon if you want it. And it's called How to Change Someone's Mind. That's what it's about. And part of the book is taking Jonathan Haidt's argument about moral foundations and applying it to changing people's mind. And the gist is that progressives and conservatives are motivated by different moral foundations, different core values that they instinctually have. And if you want to change someone's mind, you need to speak their language. You need to speak to their moral foundation. And conservatives are motivated by loyalty, authority, and purity, mostly. And progressives, their moral foundations are more fairness and caring. That's what speaks to them. So if you want to change their mind on an issue, you got to speak to those moral foundations they have. I explained a little more in the book. But this is your bleeding heart liberal. Progressives, they have over the years somehow managed to get a monopoly on caring. Now, this is the nicest explanation. I'm talking about most people. These aren't the activists. The activists are in it for a very different reason. But your average person walking down the street is like, yeah, I like clean water and don't hurt immigrants. Like that kind of person. Right? They're motivated by caring. But that should be ours. Because most of the time, the left's caring instinct, it's misguided. Their moral compass is off. It's all messed up. It's out of whack. The target of their care is wrong. But that's still the core of their instincts, right? So I believe this is another place where progressives have taken something from conservatives and made it their own and messed it up. and some places where conservatives need to take it back as our own. This is our value, actually. Caring. We care. What do you mean? What do we care about? Well, I'm against illegal immigration. Oh, what, you don't care about illegals? No, but I actually care about the other 30 kids in the classroom who speak English but can't learn because of the 10 who are speaking random, like 10 other different languages. I care about the Americans in that room. We care about the Americans who can't get a job because the illegals are keeping wages low. Like I care about the American girls who are being raped by illegals here in America. I care about the girls. We need to take that care instinct away from progressives and make it one of our own, because it's right and it's good. And if I may, caring is biblical. We need to be people who care. We just need to be the ones who have a properly focused direction of care. Galatians 6:1 says, if anyone is caught in any transgression, you who are spiritual should restore him in a spirit of gentleness. You should care about someone's transgressions. The Bible doesn't say, forget about it. Like, whatever, that's their own fault. No, you should care, because the soul of someone you love is at stake. God told Jonah to go and save the people in Nineveh. Jonah said, no, they're my enemy. I don't care about them. In fact, I want them to burn. I want them to be destroyed. Well, God did care about the people in Nineveh. And then when Jonah finally cared, the whole fish and all, he was angry when God saved him, saved them. Jonah was angry because they're bad people. He wanted to see Nineveh collapse. He wanted to see Nineveh fail. He wanted to see Nineveh be like what a lot of people want California to look like. But God cared. God cared. God cares for you. It's similar to how we need to forgive people because God forgave us. Well, we need to care about other people because God cares about us. And God cares about those people too. I'll end with Ezekiel 3:17. I want to give a shout out to one of our listeners who has a Substack called A Second Thought. So if you're into the Substack, please subscribe to this. His name's John. His Substack called A Second Thought. He often writes me incredibly thoughtful emails, and I'm glad he has a Substack to expand on these thoughts. And he brought up to me Ezekiel. And it says, Son of man, I have made you a watchman for the house of Israel. Whenever you hear a word from my mouth, you shall give them warning from me. If I say to the wicked, you shall surely die, and you give him no warning, nor speak to warn the wicked from his wicked way. So in other words, if you don't care, if you don't listen to me and don't warn people and don't care about them in order to save his life, that wicked person shall die for his iniquity, but his blood I will require at your hand. So now you're responsible because you didn't care. But if you warn the wicked, and he does not turn from his wickedness, he shall die for his iniquity, but you shall have delivered your soul. You did the best you could. If you are going to be a faithful watchman, which I think we are all called to be, that we have a responsibility to tell the truth in love, to call out sin, to encourage people to repent. And at the core of all of this is to care. And that means to care about our cities, to care about our states, to care about everyone and every part of this amazing country. My podcast is called Politics by Faith. Again, we take news of the day and we filter it through the Bible, learn some lessons, gain some wisdom, try to make sense of this world. Politics by Faith. Thanks for being here on our special here on the First TV. Spread the word.